and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that's not the kind to kiss or tell, but it has been seen with Farrah. Today, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Tide of Iron, Next Wave from 1A Games. Next Wave from 1A Games is a reprint of Fantasy Flight Games' classic game of World War II tactical battles. Essentially, one player will take on the side of the Germans, the other player will take on the side of the Americans, and the two will just start hitting at each other, as I am told they did in the 1940s. The game recreates the battles between the American Army and the German Army in France in 1944. Now, essentially what happens is you've got players that will create squads with little bases and little plastic pieces they'll put on the bases. Now, when one of these squads gets hit, you remove one of the plastic pieces. Some of them are regular riflemen, some of them are elite infantrymen, you've got officers, you've got machine gun crews, mortar crews, and then you can further upgrade them to be medics, or engineers, or flamethrowers, or anti-tank guns. There's all sorts of things that you can equip these squads with. Now, over the course of several different scenarios, you are engaging in combat. You're either trying to take a position, hold a position, or be able to meet one of several other objectives. Very interesting games, very interesting scenarios. Combat is resolved largely from adding up your combat power of the squad or the tank firing, rolling that number of black dice, then rolling a number of red dice equal to your target's cover rating. The cover rating is frequently things like terrain, forests, fortifications, how well they can dig in and survive your assault. You can also do close quarters assaults when units are adjacent. The whole game is about moving, covering ground, and hitting your enemy and trying to reach those objectives. Now, I gotta tell you, I am a huge fan of the original Fantasy Flight version of Tide of Iron. It was amazing. And about, a year or so ago, Fantasy Flight Games said that they were going to essentially sell their license to this game, because they didn't want to produce it anymore, to 1A Games. And I gotta tell you, I was a little nervous, because I love Tide of Iron. I got all the Fantasy Flight expansions, and I was super excited to see what they would do in the future. And then they said they weren't going to do anything in the future. And I didn't know 1A Games. I didn't know, if they'd be a good company or a bad company to continue the great Tide of Iron tradition. Well, late last year, they came out with their first expansion to Tide of Iron, and that was Tide of Iron Stalingrad. And it was amazing. It had a lot of great scenarios in it. It had a lot of, great new features and elevations and stuff, and I really liked Tide of Iron Stalingrad. So after that, I wasn't too concerned about the direction this company was going to take with Tide of Iron. They did a fantastic job with Stalingrad. Now, this new Next Wave edition comes with several new features as well. For starters, as you can tell, unlike the original Tide of Iron box, which was long, this Tide of Iron box is much smaller. It's about the size of most of the expansion boxes. So that's really cool. It makes it easier to store. What's cool is they didn't scrimp on the quality. The pieces, everything is just as great. I did have a problem because I usually fit a lot of my components into the plastic Plano containers. You can't really fit too many of those in here. So I kind of had to put a lot of the units and stuff in bags, but that's a minor complaint. It's nice to have this in kind of an easily storable box. Now, the game also comes with, essentially, what is this, 3 rule books. Now, these rule books are designed for quick start rules and to gradually ease players unfamiliar into the game into it. Now, that's cool if you hadn't played the game, but I gotta tell you, it was a little frustrating being an experienced player, having to look up, just a few rules here and there, but constantly having to reach for the different rule books and going through them and looking through them. And it says, there's an index which is helpful, and it says which rule book it's in, but it'd just be so much nicer if it was one rule book. Again, that's a minor complaint. Generally, this is a fantastic new edition of a classic game. I am super, super excited that Tide of Iron is not only carrying on strong, but it is being republished in this great new format, this great new edition, and I'm super excited to see what directions 1A Games takes this game in the future. It's just phenomenal. I dare say this is my favorite World War II tactical simulation game. It's not even really a simulation, it is a game, but it's great. I really, really, really love it. I highly, highly recommend Tide of Iron's new Next Wave edition. It's a great new edition. So undoubtedly, the recommendation of the discriminating gamer for 1A Games Tide of Iron Next Wave is buy it! Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we beg, we plead, we beseech thee, please, 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 like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and you know what? We're glad that Adolf Hitler was defeated in World War II.
Somebody help me on my feet again.